evening, everyone. Thank you, Sarmaya, for giving this opportunity. I took a break from the main planting season. Right now, we have the monsoon has just started in the hills, and planting season has begun. But I just took a few days off just for this. So, thank you. My name is Phejin Konyak, like he's introduced. I live in Shiyong village in Moon district of Nagaland. My book, the Konyaks, Last of the Tattooed Headhunters, is an outcome of 4 years of intensive research in my area. The photographer is a Dutch man. His name is Peter Bos. He lives in Eindhoven. Unfortunately, he cannot be here with us. If he was here with us, then it would have been again more interesting. The foreword is written by William Jarempel. William happened to be a guest at my house, and when I was doing this research, coincidentally through a common friend, and then when he heard about my work, we discussed about writing the foreword. Then the other foreword is written by his name is not here. His name is Peter Wanhan. He's a German author of Expedition Naga and the Hidden World of the Nagas. He has authored many books on the Nagas, and he has been kind enough to write the second foreword of the book. The publisher is Roli Books in Delhi. So, some of you are aware of where Nagaland is. Most of you, I'm sure. But in India, if you go out in the street, many people are not aware even where Nagaland is. People ask me, "Oh, you're from Japan, or Nagaland in Assam or Thailand?" So many people keep asking that. So just for information of everyone, I will just explain where Nagaland is on the India map. It is on the northeastern part of India, bordering Myanmar. Myanmar to the east, Manipur, the state of Manipur to the south, Assam to the west, and to the northeast, the state of Arunachal Pradesh. And this is the map of Nagaland, and this is Mon district where I am from. And this is where the Konyaks live. The Konyaks live in India. This is the Mon district in India, but which is not shown on the map is the Konyaks also live in Myanmar, in Saigang division. So we live in Nagaland, Mon district, and then also in Saigang division. And this is the map of Mon district. I will explain later about the map because based on my research, and I have placed Konyaks into 3 groups. So a little bit of introduction about the Nagas. Nagaland is the 16th state of India, and we have 16 major tribes and many sub-tribes who speak distinctive language of their own, food and dress habits, cultural practices. To understand, for easier communication, the government has introduced, made English as the official language, but for the commoners, we have come up with a bastardized language called as Nagamis, which is from Assamese, broken Assamese. This language was formed during those days when the hills people came down to the plains of Assam to barter salt for tea, opium for bamboo carpets or bamboo mats, sugar for handicrafts, and so on. So that is the Bazar language. So common people, we use Nagamis to understand each other. So Nagaland is the landlocked area, as you've seen in the map. So we have been isolated for a long time from the outside world, from the east, from the Burmese side, from the Chinese side, from the Indian side. there's been no communication for a very long time. We've been on our own, and then until the late 1800s, when the first British military expeditions came to explore the hills and then the ethnographers, the British ethnographers and British Raj administrators started coming to the Naga Hills, and they went on from village to village, hills to hills, marking down and writing notes. And only in the 1920s, the missionaries started coming, the Baptist missionaries. And with the arrival of coming of new people, outsiders, the first ethnographers and the administrators, then the arrival of the missionaries, and our society also became exposed to outside culture. And with the arrival of that, we got education and then modernity. So the changes has been very fast from from 10, 20 years to, the change of living in the villages to the phone of iPhone, the age of iPhone. And so the change has been very rapid. And the reason why I'm here speaking about the book today is because of this rapid change, our culture, traditional culture, is also vanishing very fast. We are becoming one village, all of us. So I think the reason why I started research is if we lose our identity, our individuality, then there will be nothing special about us. We will all be denim clad and iPhone and on the smartphone. So it's very important to move with the change, yet not lose our identity. I belong to the Konyak tribe, so I will explain about who the Konyaks are. This man in the photograph is my granduncle. His name is Chen O. He's in his 90s, and he's the chief of 13 villages inside India and also in Myanmar. So he belonged to the Chen group of Konyaks. So this is in his house. He was one of my subjects in the book. So this is the Konyak country. This was taken during my journey.
When you came here, your journey now?
No, I mean during the research, 4 years of research. This is because it's very important that people know where we live, how we live. Not only about the tattoo, but also about the village. So these are traditional Konyak longhouses made with palm leaves. But this is all moving slowly to concrete because people want permanent houses. So to make this house, you have to change every 16 years or 15 years. So they want something permanent. So going back to the Konyaks live in Mon district of northern Nagaland. We are spread in India and Myanmar. And we speak 28 tonal dialects within our tribe. 28 dialects. Yeah. So for doing the tattoo research, I'm lucky that I'm a local person. Otherwise, if someone needs a translator, it would have been very difficult to go from one hill to another and the tone of the language change. So for centuries we have been moving from India to Myanmar. We don't have Myanmar in India. We are Konyaks on both sides. So we have been, still now intermarriage happen. People move freely from one hill to another. But during my research and now present day, I think it might change. The geographical demarcation might change over the years time. So this is in Longwa village, which is on the Indo-Myanmar boundary. This is where the different footpaths lead to the Myanmar. So this is on the Indian side. The other side is Myanmar, which is not on the photo. So we practice mostly agriculture, and that is jhum cultivation, shifting cultivation, where rice is growing, dry rice farming. After every 10 years, 8 to 10 years, the fresh jungle is cut and then burnt, and then for 2 years the cultivation happen, and then they move on to a new place. So the main form of agriculture is shifting cultivation. But this is also all changing now. Everything, the village life is also changing because of the modernity. The Konyak also, we practice sky burial before the Christianity. We practice sky burial by putting the dead body on the bamboo platform and letting the flesh decay. Then we will collect the bones and then keep it in earthen pot. That after the arrival of Christianity, then we started the burial. Before the advent of the Gregorian calendar, our people measured, we calculated the age of a person by the agricultural year. So according to the 8 years or 10 years, we know that a person is 8 years, 10 years, depending on that. So we had the calculation with the agricultural year. This is the morong, or morong. This is a men's club, and that is a log drum. This men's club. This the log drum. The log drum. All the villages have, depending on the size of the village, we have 2, 3, 5, 10 of these morongs, depending on the population or size of the village. And it is known as the men's dormitory, because during the headhunting days, men would be initiated to become a member of the morong when they enter puberty, and then they will become, and that's when the headhunting, they start the headhunting. But I will come to that topic later. This is my great-grandfather. His name is Ahon. When I was doing the research, I came across this image by chance. This sketch was done in the early 1920s by, we don't know who did it, whether it was done by Hutton or Mills, J.P. Mills, or other British ethnographer, but this was found in the Cambridge archives when I was working on the book. And this was found by the curator of Cambridge Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology. He found it when we were working on an exhibition, a Konyak sculpture that was to be sent to the UK for exhibition. And when we were working for that exhibition, he found this image right when I was working on the tattoo research. So this is how his image came into the book. So my great-grandfather Ahon was one of the first interpreters to travel with the British ethnographer JH Hutton during his writing of the Diaries of Two Tours in the Naga Hills in 1923. So my great-grandfather toured with the British ethnographers, encouraging the villagers not to practice headhunting. Because at that time, there was constant war. People did not feel safe. So he went with them, convincing the people to live in peace. And ironically, with the practice of the stopping of the headhunting, the tattooing practice also stopped. And it's ironic that 100 years down the line, I'm documenting the tattooing, which was, my grandfather was also part of the culture. So my early childhood was spent in the village with my grandfather and his friends in the long houses. I fondly remember that the fireplace is the main center of a Konyak or Naga kitchen, and all men with the tattooed faces would sit around the fire smoking their opium pipes, and I would be sitting by the fireplace on my grandfather's lap, and that's when I first saw the markings on his face that ran from his face to the neck to the chest. So, and all of his friends, my grandfather's friends, had tattoo faces, and very interesting was that our village and my house was like in India and in Konyak language, and also in Myanmar we call it kani, opium. So our house was like an opium den, the men smoking joint, smoking joint. So all these old men, they would come walking for 2-3 days from their villages, from Myanmar, and stop in our longhouse, and all the men will be smoking, and it would be day and night was the same. There was as much activity at midnight as was in the daytime. So and then they spend the night in our longhouse, and they would walk down to the plains of Assam to barter sugar or tea, and then they would take bamboo mats, and they would exchange it for iron to forge into machete. Yeah. So all this exchange happened at the time, and they would, on the way back, they stopped in our house, and they would discuss about the new things, exciting things that they've seen in the market or in the plains people, the new things. And then, so my childhood was filled with that. It was fond memory. But at the age of 4 years, I was sent to live in the convent school, and which was terrible. Yeah. Because to be locked away, to live in a village surrounding, to be freely, and then to go to a very strict place was really bad. Anyways, I am here standing because of that education, convent education. I'm glad for it. Whatever happens for a reason, So, in the convent school, we were put with other Naga children. All the children from the different Naga tribes would come and study in the convent school, because at that time the Catholic schools gave the best education. So I and my sisters and my cousins, we were the few people that were sent to in the convent school. So alongside there, we met other children from other tribes, and then I also always thought the thought of my parents or my grandparents being different never occurred to me. I always thought their grandparents were still the same, their tradition was still the same like mine. I only realized that because one day there was so much of excitement with the borders, and then they all rushed. I thought there was an earthquake or something happening. So we all rushed to the gate, my sisters and I. So we rushed to the gate, and then we saw like a circle was formed, and then the children were all looking at this man who was covered in tattoos, and we saw that what is all the excitement for? Because he's from our village, yeah. So, but then, because the children from my boarding school had never seen someone like that, he was an alien to them. So they were so curious, and that's when my sister and I said, like we started questioning ourselves and said, we are different. And at that age, very young age only, I was aware that the Konyaks, we had a very unique cultural practice, more different than the rest of the other Naga tribes. So then from convent school, I went to college, and then afterwards during the early 20s, I decided to come back to live in the village. So I came back because I wanted the free air and to live, walking from one house to another house, or walking without being scared of any crime. So that's the bargain I did for life in the city, to pursue design and then to come and live as a farmer. So I went to live in the village. How this book came into being was during in 2014 August, I went to Calcutta on a casual visit. And then a friend recommended, maybe you should check out the Indian Museum Calcutta and meet the director, then director, Venu Prasad. So I went to the museum, I saw all the collections, and then afterwards I messaged the director that I am here. And then he said, come over to my office. So we started chatting, and then I spoke to the director and said, well, it's a beautiful museum, very beautiful collection, but then there's no collection of Naga. There's nothing about Northeast India in an Indian museum. So if you want us to be inclusive, then I think my suggestion is that the museum should also display about our artifacts and culture to everybody, to the public, so that they are also aware that we are also part of India. So yeah, that was my suggestion to the director. And then we just had like a chat. We were chatting, and then I started telling him about the rich traditional tattooing practice of my people. And then the director, after a while, he said, well, why don't you give a lecture here in the museum? And I said, no way, I'm not the right person. I'm not an academic. I'm not the right person to give the talk. I cannot do it. And he said, no, you have so much passion about your people and culture. People would want to listen to you. Why not give a lecture? And I said, let me go back and think about it. I cannot promise you. So I went back to Nagaland, and then I just kept it at the side of my mind, like it was not very important. Like, I thought like I'm not ready. But then I said, well, let's give it a try. And then I started. I called him and said, can you give me some more months? And then he was kind enough to give me more months. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to share about my culture, then that is not a joke. I have to prepare myself. And then that's when I started with my backpack, walking from village to village. I went meeting the old people, interacting with them, listening to their stories, recording poems and songs and sayings. And then I thought, oh, this can also be photographed, documented in photography. And then the photographer came along, Peter Bos from Holland, and then he also joined me. And then we walked from one hill to the other. In the monsoons, in the dry season, it didn't matter. So we walked in leech-infested forest trails. Sometimes we had to carry our own ration. We had to sleep in basic conditions. Of course, in the villages, there's no option. So we continued doing that for 3.5 years. Yeah, and then we walked all over Mon district, and then we felt that during one of those years, we also experienced many good times and bad times, many incidents which were dangerous. And at one time is when the NSCNK laid an ambush for the Assam Rifles. In 2015, on May, we were in the next hill when the ambush happened. We were inside the forest, in the valley, going from one village to another, and then we saw military helicopters. And then some villagers called the guide who were carrying our backpack and said, you have to move fast because this is what is happening in the next. So the previous day, in the exact spot, we had stopped for lunch. Yeah, that was our brush with exciting things. Then another trip, we were not satisfied with getting only the tattoo patterns for the Konyaks in India. So we decided to go into Myanmar. Now as a Konyak, I can walk inside Myanmar and visit the Konyak villages. But with a Dutch photographer, we'll end up in jail. So we thought better do the research in a proper manner. Let's not be very adventurous. So we went to Calcutta, got our Burmese visa, and then we applied for a permit to cross overland from Moreh, from Manipur, Tamil border. And then when we crossed over, we had to go upstream on the Chinwin for 3 days on a boat, houseboat. So, but no, we came down on the houseboat, but going upstream, we wanted to take shortcut instead of doing the 3 days. So we wanted to do it in, it took us 4 days, but we wanted to do it in 2 days. So I called some of the local Konyaks in Myanmar, and they said, well, you can take a shortcut. So we went searching in the small town, but nobody understand English. So we just, my contact gave me where to get the ticket in that village. So we went and got the ticket, and then we were in the World War II jeep. And for nearly 9 to 10 hours, we squat on the jeep like this, 20 people with Burmese monks and also people with babies, and everybody was there. And then we were in the forest. We were going parallelly towards the Indian border. We were going up, so Manipur was on the left side. On the right side, we were going through the forest. The only car that we met was a similar jeep with similar packed people. But there was no person coming, crazy people like us, coming to do tattoo research. So we went, and then when we reached the top, we could see the Chinwin, and I was so relieved because the sun was about to set. That was the most dense forest I've ever seen in my life. I think the trees would have been as high as the skyscrapers in Mumbai. They were really, really. We saw monkeys and all these wild animals. So when we went to the plains, then it was getting dark, and then the driver stopped the jeep. The Burmese intelligence had already heard about us, so they had the gun pointed. Come out. So they pointed the gun at us, and they asked for the passport. So we gave our passport, and then they took the driver. There was a little bit of shouting going on, and then the monks said that you have to be careful. He just told me that they are talking about you. So then the drivers came, and then he quickly started the engine, and I said, passport, passport, passport. And then the jeep just went off. And then I just looked at my photograph and said, you want to be in jail, in Burmese jail, or want to run back into India due to forest? Yeah. And then we were, after about 20 to 30 minutes, the Burmese intelligence, they follow us, and then I went down off the jeep, because at least similar face. So I just said, any problem, sir? And they said, no problem. And then he gave back our passport. But then everybody was getting down out of the jeep, so we had to cross the Chinwin on the east side. We had to cross to a town called Homaling. So the intelligence guy, he escorted us on the Chinwin, and then he took us into a hotel, like a warning saying, don't loiter out of your hotel. Because when the photographer, we went to a restaurant to eat, and then he was just going to see if there are some small shops, like pan shops, like in India, and then suddenly there were some guys saying, where are you going, where are you going? So obviously we were being watched. So early next morning, we took the ferry, and we went to the Naga area. There on the ferry, there were Naga people, and I was relieved because they were my people. So then, when we were in the town called Kamti, the Naga area, we wanted to get inside the interior, but they said that we have to get a permit which costs $2,000 each from Yangon. And then that too, the tour guide had to come flying from Yangon to take us inside. So we decided that since we were self-funding our research, that money we could not pay. So we said that let's leave it aside, let's focus on the Konyaks of India. So that's when we only focus on the Konyaks in India. So getting back to the book, so when we went over the years, now the tradition we don't have a written script. So we don't have documents or scripts to validate things. And all knowledge and information has been passed through oral tradition. So oral tradition has been passed through songs and sayings and poems and stories. And I was not aware about this until I began this tattoo journey. And that's when I became more interested to focus on my grandmother or grandfather or the older people that we met over the years. And I also did not realize that we had such a strong tradition. During one of this interview with my grand-aunt, sadly she has passed away before the book release, she recited this poem to me, The Remains of the Day. Sali panang long chasa, ulak sesim panang cakwan kangi hua, songpum yakya rongbi ganghan san yeng lay, pangpa leju sanay o. So in English it translates to, the stone does not die, the earth does not stop breathing, the worms can never eat up the sun, the moon will always show her face, but men will fade away. So that is what my grandmother recited to me, and I wrote it down here for the book. And sadly she was no more. So before this research and documentation done by me and Peter Bos, the photographer, there has been no research on Konyak tattoo. Even though government of Nagaland tourism brochures have got tattoo faces all over in the magazines, and many tourists come and take, yet this tradition, which is cultural tradition, which has been practiced for generations, which is vanishing right before us, has not been documented. So our work is the first research, probably will be the last also, because as we speak, many of these old men and women are passing away. And also this is the first time that a story is told from within the tribe, a personal journey. Earlier we only had Western scholars or scholars from the rest of India or other Naga tribe speaking about my people. But this is the first time that someone from within the tribe is doing it. So this made our work special. So getting back to the topic of headhunting, this is quite exciting, huh? So these are, so headhunting and tattooing were seamlessly interconnected in the Konyak tradition. Headhunting, for the Konyak, believe that the head contains the soul force of the person. So the head, we believe that the head contained the, for fertility benefits, prosperity of the village. So likewise, fertility of the crops, and likewise we believe that it has the power, magic power. Likewise also of animals like that was been hunted, like deers or boars or buffaloes or mitoons. So we collect the skulls of animals to decorate the houses. But the skulls of human beings were not kept in the individual houses, it was kept in the house of the Ang. Ang is the Konyak word for chief. The main reason why headhunting was done is for the rite of passage or initiation of the man. When a man becomes, enters 13 years, when he becomes an adolescent, he becomes the member of the men's club. That is the Morong. Or we call it, Morong is the general term in Naga and Assam. Nagaland and Assam we call it Morong, but in our language we call it the Pan. So that is the men's dormitory where the men learn all the social ethics, all the ways of life. So headhunting was done to spill blood as a form of purification. And also during blood feuds in revenge for the loss of a loved one, loss of a life of a lost one, and then for retaliation for breaching territorial boundaries of fishing rights and hunting grounds. So at that time, when there's a headhunting happening. And then, so the Konyaks practice tattooing and headhunting. And then also we practice teeth blackening. Blackening of teeth was done in Konyak culture, and also when I searched, it was also in Japan and also in certain cultures around the world. Teeth blackening was seen as a form of beauty. When Konyaks, young boys and girls, they enter puberty, they would blacken their teeth. It depicted the sexual appeal, you know. So nowadays we want the white teeth, but at that time the black teeth was in trend. Who knows, it might come back in fashion. One never know. Yeah. So yeah. So tattooing for the men was done as a rite of passage, and also as a medals, like acquiring medals of honor. So a warrior got fully tattooed, like a neck tattoo. Neck tattoo was reserved only for the warriors, and outlines of human beings. And people who had participated in a headhunt would get the common facial tattoo or chest tattoo, and like that. But at that time, the reason why we practice tattooing is because people walk about naked at the time. So the body was a canvas. So the more tattoo a person had, the more the more tattoo a man had, the more appealing he was to the opposite sex. So he was a hero. So it was like acquiring gold medal, bronze, silver medal, bronze medal in Olympics. You know, so that was how why we got tattoo. Also, we believe that if a Konyak person did not tattoo, we would not be recognized in the afterlife by our ancestors. So we could not enter the afterlife. So we believe that tattooing. And so no Konyak person was seen without tattoo. Women. So I will also count about women. For the women tattoo signifies cycle of life, of having passed from one stage of life to another. So for the women, it starts when she's 8 or 9 years old, well, still a child at her father's house. And at that event, she would be tattooed on the calves. And then her father and uncles and brothers can participate in the event. And then when the girl becomes 12, 13 years, then the men are not allowed. Only the mothers and aunts and friends or elder sisters can watch it. So for the Konyak woman, it depicted from being a small girl to puberty. Then when she enters her late teens, she had got certain patterns on her body, which shows her sexual maturity. And then when she's engaged, then her fiance's family pay for the tattoo day feast. They pay for the event, and at that time she's marked on the calves, not on the calves, on the upper knee, just above the knee. That means she's taken. And then when she gives birth, then on the right leg, right thigh, there are marks on her thighs, which shows that she's a mother. So Konyak women, that cycle of life of having passed from one stage of life to another. And also, like for Konyaks, tattoo differentiated between a common man and a man of nobility, a warrior and a gentleman, a woman of aristocratic class to a common woman, an unmarried woman to a married woman. So it all different patterns on your body signified your status in the society. When I was interviewing, I met so many people and to know their different stories. One very funny thing was that I was talking to this tattooed gentleman, and then I said, grand uncle, have you been to any big city out of Nagaland? And he said, no, well, I've been to Guwahati in the 80s. And I said, oh, really? And he said, Kohima and Dimapur is nothing, the biggest city is Guwahati. So I said, how did you go there? And he said, no, I had one Marwari friend. I have one Marwari friend because there are Marwaris in our town. He says, he runs a hardware store in Mon, and I told him, like, please take me with you to Guwahati because I cannot go alone. So in the 80s, this is 1986, and he told me that they went to Guwahati, and then when they were walking in the street, everybody was looking at them in the 1980s. And that man said, what's happening? Like, what's happening behind us? Then he realized that people were looking at them. And he asked his friend, what's happening? Huh? And then he said, they're watching us. I said, why? He said, because they're looking at you. So then everywhere he went, people would be looking at him. And then he said that he bought long sleeve shirts and trousers, to thinking that he would look like everybody. And then, but the next day also, everybody was looking at him. And then that's when he decided, let me go with the flow. So his children would crowd around him, and then that's when they would come closer, and then he would make funny faces, and they would run away. And then that's when he told me that's when he realized that what is normal for us is an alien thing for other people. That's when he realized. That's when I realized. That's when he told me that he realized that what is normal for us is entirely something that is different for another person from another culture. So that's when he realized that he accepted that thing. So these are the men with the tattoos, it's not very long that they will be alive. This man is already dead. Yeah, he died last year. Yeah. He was 98. And this is the chief with the tiger spirit tattoo on the back. He's 86 with a six-pack, almost like a four-pack. Yeah. People pay so much in the city to work in the gym, and this is
That's a band.
yeah, cane. Yeah, cane belt. It's a neck tattoo, man.
But look at the expression on his face.
As a woman tattoo, man tattoo. Different forms of leg tattoo. So, I will be talking about the tattoo artist and the process of Konyak tattoo. I will cut it short so that if we are running out of time. So, this is one of the last tattoo artists in the Konyak tribe. And her name is Munam Angya. She was 85 years from Shengat Chingyu village. And during those days of tattooing, she tattooed around 120 individuals. And she was in high demand at the time. So tattoo artists, Konyak tattoo artists were mostly women. Women known as Angyas, who are the queens from their nobility. So the mother passed the art to the daughter. So it was going on for generations. And when these women intermarried, then they took the design patterns with them to the next village. So, and they were highly respected in the society, tattoo artists. Even nowadays also, when a person gets tattooed, then they always respect the tattoo artist. So likewise, tattoo artists would be given the thigh of an animal or the half portion of the animal on the day of the tattooing, because the tattooee's parents hold big feasts on that day. When the child is getting the tattoo, the parents throw a big feast, and there are like different kinds of animals slaughtered, and then rice beer, and also sticky rice. So all different portions were given to that tattoo artist, and the tattooee's parents would go. The tattooee and his friends or her friends would go to pick up the tattoo artist stuff from the house, and bring it, and then they would tattoo. So she's also my tattoo artist. Her last tattoo was in 1958, and then I persuaded her over the years to finally get tattoo on my arm as a one last mark of Konyak tattoo in traditional way. She was saying that no, the church will not agree and things like that. I said, so what? We cannot please everybody in the world. So I said, let's. The thing is that if I write a book on Konyak tattooing without feeling the pain or the experience, just like my forefathers did, there will be no meaning. So I persuaded her, and then when we were driving to her village, her son called me and said, "Hey, can you get a chasma for my mother? She cannot see well." So we stopped at the optician, and then the optician, I said, what power, and where is the patient? He said, no, she's there in the village. Her son called to get glasses. I said, no way I'm giving you glass. You have to bring her. So I said, no, we cannot bring her to the town. So we went there, and then I gave gifts. Gifts to the tattoo artist and for her friends for the next day. So we prepared that night all the ink and other stuff. So this is my arm that she's tattooing in the traditional Konyak style. So coming back, I will speak about the process. These are Angyas or queens who were traditional tattoo artists. She has passed away already last year. So the Konyak tattooing, the material is from the red cedar or tuna kalita. So the tree is, the bark of the tree is cut into strips, and then the set collected over a period of a week or 4 or 5 days, and then the set becomes a hard resin. And then the resin is it's because it's got flammable properties. It is burnt overnight, and then a clay pot is kept on top of the flame. And then in the morning there's a fine powder that is collected on the pot. So that powder is scrapped, and then rice beer is poured, alcohol is poured over the powder. That forms the ink. And then the needle is from the sharp thorn of the rattan palm. So the sharp thorns are, so there is a rattan palm. That's how the needle looks. And then that is binded by the tattoo artist very finely with plant fibers over months. It takes over months to bind it. And this is binded on bamboo. So we did my tattoo in the same traditional way with this. It's much more painful than the modern machine tattoo. 90 times I would say. Yeah.
How many hours did it take?
It took 4 hours just to do this.
Were you screaming?
No, not like that. I was like, okay, I made a decision, I must stick to it. But at the end, it was just unbearable. So Konyak tattooing is done by 2 methods: hand tapping and hand hammering. So this is the first tool with where the needle is inserted, and then she taps with the second tool like that. That's hand tapping tattoo, and then there's a second one called hand hammering, where just one tool is used, and the needles are. This is how usually the legs and the other parts of the body is tattooed, with needles arranged in rows. Depending on the size of the tattoo, they will bind the needles. But for the face tattoo, they would bind 3 needles, because the face is a very fragile area. So one has to be careful not to hurt the eyes. And then when the tattooing is happening, the tattoo artist has got assistants to hold the tattoo. So to keep mostly to keep the skin very taut, you know. So, and I will tell you about, you must have never heard about the penis tattoo. So this man, he was one of the greatest chief. He passed away in the early 1920s. So how we came to know about this is, one day when in the monsoon we were walking from village to village, and then we just stayed in the pastor's house, and the pastor said that no, you must. It is obligatory that you meet the chief of the village, and this chief is powerful. He has many villages in Arunachal and also in Nagaland under him. So we went to meet the chief, and the chief was in his 40s, and he spoke English and also Nagamese and our own dialect. But for the photographer, it was much easier because the chief could speak English, so I didn't need to translate it. So then I explained to the chief the reason why we are traveling around these places, around the villages, and he said that, well, I've got to tell you about the unique story of my great-grandfather. So he told me that his grandfather, whose name is Chakwang Ang, was a very famous warrior at the time, and he had many tattoos on his body, and then because he was an exceptional warrior, he felt that the time had come for him to get his penis tattoo. So he had 30 wives. 30 wives, and 11 of them were tattoo artists. So on the tattooing day, he invited all the representatives of the villages under him for a big feast. They killed 15 mituns, 15 buffaloes, and then there was a big event. And then his 11 wives out of his 30 wives were tattoo artists. They took turns to tattoo his penis, but the penis kept retracting. So, but they could not laugh. It was they could not laugh or make funny faces in his presence. They said that you lose your head if you do that. Make fun. So his wife took turns and they went outside And they took turns, and that's how they did the penis tattoo. So this story was related. Yeah, this story was told to me, told to us by his grandson. So and obviously I was not there, and he was not there. So we asked how the pattern was, and the Ahon, who is like in his 40s, called all the older people who were from his great-grandfather's generation. But they were very young boys at the time. The old men that we were sitting, who were 80, 90 years, were probably about 16, 17 when this tattoo was happening. So they illustrated the design on a paper. So we illustrated an Ang's penis tattoo on a table in the kitchen, and then that's when I sat with the illustrator to draw this. So this is how it was. So yeah.
I like the way you made it very six-packy.
Okay. No, all Konyaks, women and men have six. At that time, people are still fit. You know, they are walking in the fields and up and down the hills. So this is also a woman tattoo on the face. Different Konyaks have 3 different tattoo groups, and this is one of them. So this discovery of 3 Konyak tattoos was made by us during this research. Before that, some people just vaguely mentioned that there are 2 groups and 1 group. So only during our research, we realized that based on the language and social stratification, there are 3 parallel tattoo groups in my tribe. So these are women with traditional jewelry. This is a man is. So this is the impact of globalization and Adidas man, and this is tattooed man. This is the changing face of reality that we are facing. And by the way, this photo is on exhibition in Cambridge last year. They asked my permission to use it for a Naga exhibition. They used this one and the picture of my great-grandfather earlier, which I explained. So they choose 2 photographs from my book, and this is the reality that we are facing of a global brand and a tribal culture. So, and then there's more fashion, New York, Milan. Yeah. So that is how we are changing. So if we don't realize what is happening and we don't document our tradition, then we have nothing special about us. We lose everything. This is a deacon in a church. So he was one of the last batch to tattoo, and this is in a church. He is a preacher, and we got permission to preach, to take his photographs in the surroundings, in his workplace, and this is the reality. So why the tattoo practice stopped is because number 1 is that we would not have remained isolated. The world was changing so fast, so no way that we could have remained cut off. So one way or other, we would have been in touch with the people living around us. So when the British came, along with that came the outside influence, and then also Christianity. And then Christianity, according to it, they said that it's a hidden practice. So it was against the new religion to practice headhunting and tattooing, and so the tattoo artists had to abandon their art, and then finally in 1960 the Konyak Student Union passed a law that tattooing has to be stopped. There's all the pros and cons, because earlier all the old men and women that we met over the years say that they did not live in peace because there was constant war. They could not sleep well because they were always worried about who's going to attack the village. So that's another thing of why the change is good. And another thing is that at that time individuals did not have a say. If I or you did not want a tattoo, there was no way that we could avoid it. It was mandatory. And so whether you like it or not, it was compulsory for everybody to have tattoo. So, and then also the Konyaks wanted to merge in wanted to be similar to the other people. With our tattoos, we would be different from the others. So we wanted to look like other people. So then they said, let's not tattoo. So all this, studying all these pros and cons, the students' union passed the law. And there was no way that we could avoid the changes that was coming. But then the changes happened too fast. So from headhunting and tattooing just a couple of 40, 50 years ago to now, this new internet age, it's there's not a step-by-step progress, but it was just one from a leap from step 1 to 10. So now, personally, I feel that we are there's no balance between the old and the new, and so my book, through this book, at least we hope that it can encourage other people to take similar steps to document their tribe and their tribal culture before it's all gone. Because the old men and the women whom we said over the years are libraries, because it is an old tradition. We then die our libraries. So if we don't document that, then it's gone forever. And we are planning to translate this book from English coffee table book into Konyak language, so that our work can be read by our people. And they cannot afford the 3,500 book. So the thing is, we want to make it less than 1,000, so that they can read the book and their own culture in the local Konyak language, but with the Roman script. And then we are planning to make a children's illustrated book, because we realize that in our schools we don't have any stories about our local folklore, about our story, about our origin of who we are as a tribe or as a culture. We only have stories, fairy tales from the West about Snow White or about Goldilocks. We have stories from the Mahabharata or from the Amma Chitra Katha Tinkle books and Archie comics, but we don't have our own culture. So from the collection of stories and poems, we are going to illustrate it to make it into a children's book, so that our younger ones can also be motivated to know more about the culture. Hello? Yeah.
Hello. Who was tattooed on her?
Oh my God,
Pardon?
Phejin, this
When a woman
was
is tattooed on her hand, what does that signify?
The tattoo on the hand, usually traditional, is the women from the nobility, they get it on two sides, and that is when she's a marriageable age, like with her friends.
I'm Marwadi, and my grandmother used to have tattoos. So no, she's not there, so there's no way to ask her why. You have an answer for that.
I will just tell you about one personal story, just last before we wrap up. This man on the cover, he is special to me, because I didn't choose him after that incident, but it was we have a lot of many of our subjects over the years, so we cannot choose which one is more special than the other one. We didn't sit like that, but it just happened along the way. And so for many years, I would go back to the villages to interview our subject 2-3 times. This year, that winter, the next summer, so that I have to get again what I'm missing over the years. So one summer during the monsoon, I went. My photographer and we had printed a huge aluminum photograph of him, and we had sent it back through some of the young boys we met from his village, but that was not accessible by car because the monsoon was full on. So I took a bike. One of my local relatives there. His village is on the last Indo-Myanmar boundary, deeply forested area. He lives right on the ridge, and then we walked most of the time. We were on the bike, but we were all dirty, and so we walked. And then when we reached his village, I had informed him the day before, someone in his village, that I'm coming back again. So he was waiting for me, and he did not go to the field. Although he's in his 80s, he still go and work in the farm. So that day, he and his granddaughter were waiting for me, and then we sat for about 2-3 hours discussing about the stories, and I was questioning him again and writing down notes. And then during that conversation, after nearly 2 hours, he told me that I heard that government of India sent old age money to the villages. But you know, we are so far away from it, we don't know what's happening. So usually to these subjects, we always go with gifts. We give them money, or we give them meat, or we give them, some of them want alcohol. Although it's a dry state, we have to smuggle. Then we have to take sometimes blankets and all, because some of them don't have proper clothes in the villages. So at that day also I got gifts for him. Then I was going to give him my money, some money, but I was thinking, let me finish the conversation and then I will give him some money. Then the old man, we were continuing with the conversation, and then he placed an unmarked envelope on the mora between us. And then he said, take it. And I said, what's this? And he said, take it. No. So I just thought that he wanted me to read something for him, maybe some documents, and he didn't know how to read and write, and and his granddaughter too. So I opened the envelope. I took the envelope thinking that it was a document. When I look at him, when I opened the envelope, there were 1,000 rupees tagged in it. This was before demonetization. 1,000 notes. And then I said, what is this? And then he said, I said, what is this? And then he said, you take it. This is to fund for your research. Yeah. So an old man, a tattooed man, giving me money to fund for my research. And he had earned that money. Apparently he earned 3 lakhs that year from cardamom crops. And his granddaughter said, take it. You take it because grandpa really wants you to have it. And then I said, no, I cannot take money from all people. I cannot do it. If you're positive, then everything will come to you. And I said, you give me blessing to make this book, the journey, a success. I don't want your money, but I'm really grateful for it. That will remain for me, and that will remain with me for the rest of my life, and I will speak about kindness and humility. And that's what I told him, and I don't take his money. And then, we discussed and things like that. And, after the book was released, it was released on December 1 at the Hornbill Festival. And after the book was released, I and the photographer, we went back to give him the book. That is what we do. We make sure that we are giving the book to our main prominent subjects. We go to the villages, and to other people, we have printed hundreds of photographs and given them back over the years. And they said, oh, this is the first time that someone is coming back and giving something. We are actually seeing it. So he was ill the day when we came, and then he said he had some pain in the stomach, and also we gave him some medicine, and he was all right after that. So then that's how this man is special. Not because of that, we had already chosen him before that, but then it made a personal connection. So that is how my personal journey is about the inside story. It's not just about documenting tattoo patterns and about the culture, but it is also about my personal interactions with the older people, and poems and songs and sayings, and that's how we plan to carry it forward. Thank you.
So, quick couple of questions. Pradeep, yeah.
I'd like to ask you, you mentioned that the abolishment of the practice was taken by a students' union, and I find it interesting that it was not taken by a council of elders or council of chiefs, but it was taken by students. And how do you explain that? Because most decisions are normally taken by, let's say, the older generation. So how do you explain that?
Well, the chiefs at that time were tattooed elders themselves, who were already tattooed. After that, after the arrival of Christianity and modernity, the student union became like the more powerful force. Like the council of elders still take a very important role, but then there are also certain decisions that are made by the student union. It is very strong in our villages, the student union decision. So they made the rule because probably they didn't want to get tattooed. So if they made the rule for themselves, then they escape from it. So that is what happened.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Reddy.
If you had a choice, which would you rather that came back, hunting or tattooing?
See, they were seamlessly interconnected. They were because of the one, the other.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, Niyati.
What is this, what is the stone or whatever that you're wearing? All the ladies are wearing this beads. What beads are these?
I don't know about the beads. It's a traditional Konyak jewelry. We have been doing making this jewelry. It's been for many generations like that, but I don't know what it's.
Were you headhunters before Christianity came, or is this a tradition original, or it came only after Christianity?
This culture happened for generations, and it stopped after Christianity.
So why were you headhunters? Just for property and the three things you mentioned.
Yes.
But is it a what do you call it? An instinctive thing, or was there some Raja who did it and therefore you all followed it? Is there a story behind it?
Yeah, that's what it was believed that it brought the head contained the soul force of the person, likewise of animal's head. So we believe that it brought prosperity to the village and fertility of crops.
Yes, Rishi, last question.
Some of the pictures where the men that in Konyak, they're wearing this necklace with skulls or heads. So is that the amount of heads that they?
In the heydays of head hunting, only the warriors who have taken the heads could wear those skull necklaces. But nowadays everybody is wearing. At that time, depending on the number of heads that a person has taken, they could wear the necklace. Yeah, the amount of heads.